The moment I stepped into the courtroom, I saw them already waiting. My parents, the same two people who dropped me off at a stranger's house when I was 6 years old and never came back. Their smiles were sharp and icy, the kind that used to freeze me in fear when I was little. They looked convinced the victory was theirs before a single word was spoken. Why wouldn't they be? To the world, they were the glamorous social media influencers, millions of followers, brand deals, the perfect couple. And I was just the daughter they'd discarded 23 years earlier. But everything had changed. My grandmother, the only person who ever truly loved me, had passed away, leaving every cent of her billion-dollar empire to me. Now, the very people who abandoned me were dragging me to court to take it all back. Standing before the judge, I could feel my pulse beating so loud it seemed to echo off the marble walls. He lifted his gaze, studying me carefully. A flicker of recognition crossed his face. Then, with a stunned tremor in his voice, he said, "Wait, you're her?" The silence that followed was deafening. My parents' polished confidence fractured as the truth they'd buried for years began to surface. My name is Sophia Chen, and this is the story of how I went from abandoned child to billionaire heiress, and how I fought the battle of my life to keep what was rightfully mine. I was only 6 the day they vanished from my world. The Miami sun was brutal that afternoon, blazing, relentless, scorching everything except the hollow chill inside me. My mother, Isabel, crouched in front of me, her designer sundress fluttering, expensive perfume clinging to her like a lie. "Be good for Grandma Chen, okay, sweetheart?" she said, her forced smile trembling at the edges. My father, Marcus, leaned against their Tesla, scrolling through his phone. "Izzy, come on. We're going to miss our flight to Bali. The shoot's in 6 hours." "Flight?" I asked, grabbing her dress with my small hand. "Where are you going? Can I come?" For a heartbeat, she froze. "It's just a quick trip, darling. We'll be back soon." But even as a child, I caught the crack in her voice. She didn't hug me. She kissed the air beside my face, her heels clicking away like a countdown timer. The car door slammed. Tires crunched against gravel. Their silver Tesla vanished down the palm-lined street. I chased after it until my breath tore in my chest, until my legs gave up. I called out to them, but only the wind answered. Then a steady hand rested on my shoulder, firm, kind, unfamiliar. I turned to see an elderly Chinese woman with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair pulled into a neat bun. She knelt beside me, her voice carrying a soft accent. "They don't deserve you, little one," she whispered, her voice trembling with sorrow and determination. "But I will never let you feel unwanted again." She lifted me into her arms as if I weighed nothing. My head rested on her shoulder, and for the first time that day, I felt safe. Her name was May Chen. She was my grandmother, my father's mother, and until that moment, I'd never met her. See, my parents had cut her out of their lives years before I was born. She was too traditional, they said, too judgmental of our lifestyle. They wanted nothing to do with her wealth or her values. But when they needed someone to take me off their hands so they could chase Instagram fame full-time, suddenly Grandma Chen was good enough. That night, she made me soup with homemade noodles. No staff, no assistants, just her. "Will they come back?" I whispered. She hesitated, then stroked her hair gently. "Some people are not meant to be parents, Sophia, but you will never wonder if you are loved again. I promise you that." And she kept that promise, every single day for the next 23 years.
Life with Grandma Chen bore no resemblance to the influencer lifestyle my parents chased. She lived in a waterfront estate in Coral Gables, not for show, but because she'd built it herself. May Chen was the founder of Chen Global Logistics, a shipping empire that connected Asia and the Americas. She'd started with one cargo ship and turned it into a billion-dollar network. But to me, she wasn't a business mogul. She was just Grandma. Every morning at 5:30 a.m., she'd wake me with a gentle knock. "Up, Sophia. The world doesn't wait for dreamers who sleep in." I'd shuffle to the kitchen, where she'd already have tea brewing and the business section spread wide. "Read this," she'd say, tapping a headline. "Then tell me what they're not saying." At first, I barely understood, but over time, her lessons unfolded. Never accept a story just because everyone believes it. Truth, she said, hides beneath the surface. When I turned 12, she brought me to her company headquarters. The glass towers downtown shimmered in the Miami sunlight. "This is Chen Global," she said, pride in her voice. "Someday, you'll ask tougher questions than any of these executives, and they'll listen." She wasn't just preparing me to inherit wealth. She was teaching me to see the world clearly, to value integrity over image, substance over followers. Every weekend, we'd volunteer at the community center she'd funded. While other billionaires sent checks and posed for photos, Grandma stayed for hours, teaching immigrant kids English and helping teenagers open their first bank accounts. "Power means nothing," she often said, "if you use it only to stand above others." Meanwhile, my parents' faces glowed on every screen: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. "Living our best life," they'd caption, showing off luxury resorts and brand partnerships. When I turned 16, I saw them on a morning show, laughing about their journey to authenticity. The host asked, "Do you have any regrets?" My mother smiled, that same fake smile from the day she left me. "None. We chose freedom. We chose ourselves. And that's the most important thing." The interviewer never asked about me. Nobody did. Grandma came in quietly, saw what I was watching, and turned off the TV. "Do you miss them?" she asked. The truth trembled on my lips. "Not anymore." She nodded slowly. "Good. Missing people who left is like staring at closed doors. You'll miss the ones still open." That night, she handed me a leather-bound journal. "For your truth," she said. "One day the world will try to change it. Don't let them." I had no idea that journal would become my shield, the evidence that would protect me when my parents tried to destroy me in court.
The morning Grandma passed away, the world felt unsteady. I found her in her study, head bowed over her desk, reading glasses still perched above an open page. The final line she'd written read, "Legacy isn't what you leave behind, it's who you leave it with." I didn't cry at first. I just stood frozen, staring at the woman who had filled every void in my life. Then the grief broke through, sharp, relentless, drowning. Her funeral gathered Miami's elite, business magnates, politicians, even the governor. Everyone wanted to be seen honoring Mei Chen, the woman who built an empire on integrity. But I just wanted one more hour with her, one more lesson, one more bowl of soup on a rainy evening. And then I saw them. My parents stood near the front, dressed in sleek black designer clothes, faces hidden behind expensive sunglasses. My mother dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief, her tears as artificial as her Instagram filters. When the ceremony ended, they came toward me, the first time in 23 years. "Sophia," my mother said softly, tilting her head, "you've grown so beautiful." I took a step back. "You remembered my name. I'm impressed." Her smile faltered. "We're family," she said lightly. "We should reconnect." "Family?" I repeated, the word tasting bitter. "You left me on a stranger's doorstep when I was 6. You chose brand deals over your own daughter." Marcus's expression hardened. "You always were dramatic. We gave you a better life with your grandmother than we could have provided." Before I could reply, Grandma's attorney, Mr. James Park, appeared and announced the reading of the will. A low murmur rippled through the guests as they filed inside Grandma's study. Mr. Park cleared his throat. "The late Mei Chen leaves all properties, including the Coral Gables residence, Chen Global Logistics, and all financial holdings, to her granddaughter, Sophia Chen." The silence was absolute. My mother gasped. My father's face turned crimson. "That's impossible," Isabel stammered. "We're her family." Mr. Park didn't waver. "She also left a message," he read from the document. "Those who abandon family for fame have already forfeited their inheritance." Marcus slammed his hand on the table. "She was old. She wasn't in her right mind." "She was 78 and sharper than most people have her age," Mr. Park said coldly. "Every document was reviewed by 3 independent physicians. Her mind was perfectly sound." I stood motionless, gripping the table's edge. For the first time, I saw my parents stripped bare, their polish gone, their charm unraveling. My mother turned toward me, voice low and venomous. "You'll regret this, Sophia. You manipulated a sick old woman. We'll prove it." I met her stare evenly. "You're welcome to try." Outside, palm trees squeeze in the breeze. In that moment, I understood that grief and greed often arrive together, and I could almost hear Grandma's voice. "Stand tall, Sophia. The truth always wins."
It began a week later. A thick envelope appeared on my doorstep. Inside, notice of civil action. Charles Marcus and Isabel Chen versus Sophia Chen. Claim of undue influence. My own parents were suing me, accusing me of manipulating my grandmother into giving me everything. Within hours, the story exploded. Every headline screamed scandal. Influencer parents sue daughter for $1.6 billion estate. Paparazzi swarmed the gates. Camera flashes lit up the night. My attorney, Robert Hayes, called immediately. They're moving fast. They have lawyers in 3 states and a PR team already spinning this. Of course they do, I muttered. They've spent 20 years building their brand. I'm just collateral damage. Their accusations were brutal. They claimed I'd isolated Grandma, controlled her medical care, and pressured her to change her will. They painted me as a manipulative gold digger who'd stolen their rightful inheritance. The media loved it. Within days, I was the villain in a story I didn't write. Tabloid headlines: did she steal billions from her own family? Social media exploded with opinions from people who'd never met me. My mother posted a tearful video. We just want justice for Mom Chen. She was taken advantage of in her final years. #Justice for May Chen. It got 12 million views in 24 hours. 2 days later, as I left a coffee shop, a reporter lunged forward. Sophia, did you manipulate your grandmother? Did you threaten her? I stopped, faced the cameras, and replied steadily. If loving the woman who raised me counts as manipulation, then yes, I'm guilty. That night, a blocked number called. Enjoying your fame? My mother's voice slid through the line like ice. Why are you doing this? I asked. Because you took what's ours, she said coldly. You stole our life. Now we'll take yours. The line went dead. I sat alone in Grandma's study, her photograph beside the leather journal. I opened it, fingers tracing her handwriting. When truth is tested, stand still. Let them strike. They'll only hurt themselves. I closed the book, drawing a slow breath. If they wanted a battle, they'd chosen the wrong Chen. The courthouse steps were swarmed with reporters, cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward. Inside, the courtroom carried the scent of polished wood and tension. My parents sat at the plaintiff's table, perfectly posed. My mother in a black Chanel dress, my father in a navy Tom Ford suit. They looked like they were at a premiere, not a trial. As I entered, murmurs rippled through the room. My heels struck marble with deliberate rhythm, though my palms trembled. At the bench sat Judge Marcus Nolan, silver hair, piercing eyes that missed nothing. When his gaze met mine, recognition flickered across his face. He removed his glasses slowly. Miss Chen, he asked, tone unexpectedly gentle. Step forward, please. My stomach tightened as I approached. He studied me for several long seconds, then murmured, You're May Chen's granddaughter. Yes, Your Honor. A small nod. Something like respect crossed his features. I had the honor of working with your grandmother on the Port Expansion Act 15 years ago. She told me, if my granddaughter ever appears in your court, listen closely. She'll be telling the truth. Gasps swept through the spectators. Behind me, I heard my mother's sharp intake of breath. Judge Nolan straightened. Proceed. Their lawyer, Elliot Graves, rose with practiced confidence. Your Honor, this young woman isolated her elderly grandmother, interfered with her medical care, and coerced her into revising her will. We intend to prove deliberate fraud. Robert remained calm. We look forward to refuting every falsehood, Your Honor. The testimony began. My parents' team threw everything: distorted emails, clipped phrases, fragments twisted out of context. Each time, Robert met them with clean records, precise timelines, and witnesses whose loyalty to Grandma's integrity never wavered. Then my mother took the stand. Her performance was flawless, every tear perfectly timed. We only wanted to reconnect with our daughter, she said, dabbing her eyes. But Sophia pushed us away. She cut us off from Mom. We were trying to protect her legacy. I could barely watch. The woman who abandoned me was now playing the heartbroken mother. But then Robert stood. Mrs. Chen, you claim you wanted to reconnect. Can you tell the court when you last contacted your daughter before Mrs. May Chen's death? Isabel hesitated. We tried several times. According to phone records, you sent exactly 0 calls, texts, or emails to Sophia in the 23 years between abandoning her and filing this lawsuit. Is that correct? Silence. And according to your tax returns, you claimed Mrs. May Chen as a dependent for financial benefit from 2010 to 2018, despite having no contact with her, correct? Her face went pale. Robert turned to me. Miss Chen, please take the stand. My pulse thundered as I crossed the room. Robert placed a letter beneath the evidence camera. Grandma's handwriting filled the screen. To my dearest Sophia, you were never my duty. You were my choice. If you ever stand against those who left you behind, don't meet them with hate. Let truth defend you. It always will. The room went utterly still. Robert's voice remained steady. These letters spanned 20 years, each affirming Mrs. Chen's clear mind, affection, and conscious decision to leave her estate to her granddaughter. Then I withdrew Grandma's journal. Its edges were frayed, the spine cracked. "This was my grandmother's personal diary," I said quietly. "She wrote in it every night until the week she passed." I flipped to the final entry. The ink had faded slightly, but the handwriting was strong. "My son and his wife live for appearances. My granddaughter lives for truth. The estate must belong to her, not as a reward, but as protection. She carries my conscience where I no longer can." The silence felt sacred. Then my mother's composure shattered. "He was sick," she cried. "She manipulated him." The gavel came down with a sharp crack. "Mrs. Chen, sit down." I turned toward her. "No one manipulated her. She just finally saw you for who you really are." The third day, Judge Nolan entered, robes sweeping. He took his seat, adjusted papers, and glanced at me. For a heartbeat, I thought I saw pride in his eyes. "This court has examined all testimony and correspondence," he began, voice calm but unyielding. "What stands before me is not evidence of coercion, but of greed, deliberate and transparent." A low stir spread through the gallery. "The plaintiffs have failed to prove undue influence. The record shows clear intent, mental soundness, and deliberate judgment. Therefore, this court dismisses the plaintiff's claims in full. The will of Mei Chen stands. The estate belongs to Miss Sophia Chen." For a heartbeat, silence. Then, the rush. Pens scratching, cameras flashing. Judge Nolan turned toward my parents. "Justice does not belong to blood. It belongs to truth." The gavel struck once, sharp, final. My mother tried to grab my wrist as I left. "You'll regret this." I looked straight at her. I'd rather stand alone than hollow. Outside, sunlight flooded the courthouse steps. Reporters surged forward. "How does it feel to win?" I paused. It wasn't about money. It was about truth. That night, I sat beneath Grandma's portrait, verdict papers beside me. "You were right, Grandma," I whispered. "Truth really does have long arms." Weeks later, my father called. His voice was fragile, shaking. I read her journal, all of it. She wrote that I stopped being her son long before the will was signed. I closed my eyes. She also wrote it's never too late to do what's right. "I don't deserve forgiveness," he said. "But I needed you to know. I'm sorry." I gazed out at the ocean. "I don't know if I can forgive you, but Grandma would have wanted me to try." After the call, I stepped outside barefoot, carrying her journal. Turning to the final page. "True justice isn't found in courtrooms, but in the hearts of those who keep believing in it." Tears came, soft, unhurried. "I believe, Grandma," I whispered. "I always will." And in the breeze, I could almost hear her reply. "Then I can finally rest, my girl." Justice had been won, but forgiveness, that was the real inheritance she'd left behind.